The backdrop for my intervention is very clear, considering all the other speakers today have raised in some form or the other some kind of law reform, some kind of legal measure that has been taken to curtail rights, to restrict livelihoods, to dispossess people, to make changes to land rights, and in many ways affect the economic security, social protections that people have enjoyed, and perhaps also deny them those in the future. So in that backdrop, and having it being said at the very beginning of this forum that all these laws are coming in from being formulated by a government without a mandate, being passed by a parliament that has lost the confidence of the people, which was demonstrable by the uprising of citizens in 2022, so that no parliamentarian, no representative right now really has that authority, that legitimacy to be passing laws. We have seen a rapid law reform agenda in the last 2 years. It has been, on one hand, a slew of laws that have affected economic, social rights of people. We are looking at the Inland Revenue Amendment Act, which pushed the ETF to accept a swap in the bonds affecting the interest savings. We are looking at the Central Bank Act. We are looking at microcredit and finance regulation bill that came up in the midst of a debt issue for individuals, right? A household debt. Just yesterday, we had the President talk about economic transformation law, public debt management law, public finance law. We do not know as citizens what is in these new pieces of legislation. We haven't seen a scrap of paper, background document, explaining what the research is, what the motivations are, what it's going to look like in terms of a plan. And it's, again, Aswasuma being gazetted, not a particular law, but the use of a law to gazette Aswasuma, which people did not know what the program looked like before it was rolled out. And we're still having individuals question and ask what's going to happen to the old scheme, the Samurdhi savings. All these questions are at the back of people's mind, creating a lot of insecurity, a lot of indeterminacy about what people's futures look like. We also saw proposals for labor law reform that really scared workers and trade unions in the country, because there were these devastating new changes that attacked the very premise of labor rights, which is that the employee-employee relationship is not an equal one. And we also are hearing about reforms to land-related laws, right? So this whole slew of laws and law reforms and new laws affect people in very fundamental ways, their livelihoods, their food security, the agriculture policy in this country, all those things that have meaning to how they are going to look after their children, what the next generation is going to have as wealth, and also our climate security, climate justice, right? Even our own environment, whether these new laws are taking those into consideration, there is not just a huge question mark, but there are real concerns. And as people reel from these difficulties, start talking about what they need and what they want, and raise their voices in terms of the problems and grievances that they are facing, we see another barrage of laws that silence them. So we've seen the Online Safety Act being enacted against many citizens who went to court. An unprecedented number of citizens, over 40, who went to court challenging the law, saying this is a law that will curtail the right to speak out, dissent, share information. And yet that law came through. We are also in Parliament right now, we have an anti-terrorism bill that looks very much like an anti-protest bill. We are also looking at, there's talk about a new NGO law that will also affect, in the versions that we have seen, will seriously affect the right to the freedom of association of citizens, organizations, collective action and mobilization in Sri Lanka. So there is a strong concerted effort to reduce, and I say the rights that the Constitution has granted, the rights that people, citizens have experienced in the most minimalistic way because of the war, because of various disasters and crises. We are rolling back on rights. We have not been given the opportunity to breathe and experience and build and expand our fundamental rights in Sri Lanka. This is taking the economic crisis as an opportunity of people on the back foot, of people being afraid of their financial security and taking advantage of that to say, let's bring in more laws, let's govern with an iron fist and make sure that we introduce policies that serve us, political elite, business elite. The interests are really very clear in the law reform agenda. So if you look at the laws that have been coming in, we can see a growth of the executive. That is something that we've been seeing in studying these new laws. There are new competent authorities, there are new commissions. There is a growing executive power in a country that has extreme power in the executive, starting from the executive presidency. We are also seeing an expansion of criminal laws within each of these laws. So more and more tools for the police to interfere, to harass, to arrest, and to criminalize dissent even. Dissent is becoming stigmatized. I was just hearing Professor Shamla Kumar talk about how different groups, whether students or lecturers, being cast in various terms, saying that, you know, these are people that you should not be listening to, they are not productive citizens of this country. The laws themselves are doing it. When you criminalize certain actions, you are criminalizing, marginalizing, stigmatizing those with different ideas, those that are dissenting and asking for different solutions, and those that are voicing problems that you are not concerned about. And that is a serious concern in this. So really, we have to be asking for a halt in this law reform agenda. It is so fast, there is no transparency, there is no mandate, and there are serious incursions that we cannot roll back from. We cannot recover easily once the law is passed in a country where citizens also cannot challenge laws in court. We are one of the few countries that citizens don't have the right to challenge a law and say, actually this law now infringes my rights. So we are very much as citizens on the back foot, and this is moving 10, 50, 100 steps back in terms of the independence that we secured and the constitutions that we have put in place to protect citizens.